Oh my gosh, you guys, I was muted. I've been talking to myself. Oh, so annoying. So here we go. It is 11:10 p.m. I'm really hoping I'm done by 11:20 p.m. I do hope that I can do this in about 10 minutes. Sorry I don't have my camera on. I literally just got home from the Coyotes game, just wearing my Coyotes uni that I always wear. So anyway, here we go. This is just the entire lesson except for this right here, this little bit of housekeeping. Is those two slides that I told you about last class that I missed. So the first thing we need to just look at real quick is cross-sequential study. So I don't have any research problems in this lecture that applies to cross-sequential, but just so you can see it relative to cross. Oh, I don't have my packet in front of me, but it wasn't sequence, it was cross-sectional. I think, oh, it was cross-sectional, that's right. So cross-sectional, so cross-sequential, rather than studying a particular individual over an entire period of time, and that would be cross-sectional or longitudinal. It is cross-sequential is when you study multiple people who are different, say, ages at different periods of time, and then you kind of add or about this. It is a cross-sectional design. The researcher chooses a smaller window over 20 years to study multiple individuals of different starting ages, and that's the key. So rather than studying one person for 40 years and going, okay, I'll catch up to you every 5 years, so 25, 30, what you'll do is you'll start with say, a group of people who are, where's my mouse? A group of people who are 20, a group of people who are 40, and then every 5 years you then check in, and now you get information about a 20-year-old and a 40-year-old, and then a 25-year-old and a 45-year-old, and a 30-year-old and a 50-year-old, and so on and so forth. And then over 20 years, you're able to get 40 years worth of information on the 20 years. You could, of course, this is all purely just, gosh, what am I trying to say here? Sorry. This is all purely an example. I mean, so it's like you could do this over the course of weeks, you could do this over the course of months, you could do this over the course of years. Your intervals don't have to be just 5 years, they could be 10 years, they could be 1 year, they could be 6 months, what have you. But regardless, the point though is that you have multiple groups that start at different points, and the youngest group will then start at the point that you want to start, the oldest group will end at the point that you want it to end, but that saves you time. So hypothetically, you could also do this over the course of, say, 5 years. You check in, have a group of people who are 20, 25, 30, so on and so forth, to say 60, or maybe 55, and then you check back in 5 years later, and now you're guaranteed a double set of information from 25, 30, so on and so forth, and then you're able to get that up from 20 to 60. So hopefully that makes sense. But regardless, longitudinal or cross-sectional, you'll just do one group of people. Cross-sequential allows you to do multiple groups at the same time. And the other thing, this fallacy of composition plays directly into the third part, or the third prompt of part 2. And that is just, I forget what the question is, although I can real quick. Oh, I totally just kind of cheated for you. Oh, fudge. I shouldn't have done that. I really should not have done that. So, okay, I know how to get around it. So, is the fallacy of composition at all a concern to you, given your selected research? Be sure to define it. So I was able to kind of keep hiding this for you. So fallacy of competition is a type of logical fallacy, meaning a flaw in reasoning that weakens an argument or a trick of thought used as a debate tactic. And this is something that people do all the time, politicians particularly will do all the time. It occurs when the properties of a whole and its parts are mistakenly thought to be transferable from one to another. So an example is the trees are made of atoms, and atoms are not visible to the eye, therefore trees are not visible to the eye either. It could be, I wish I had another example off the top of my head. I did have one. I was able to teach this lecture to one of my classes, and I had an example off the top of my head. But regardless, that's fallacy of composition. That the argument, the point is that you want to make sure that your argument is sound from the beginning and through all parts. Fallacy of composition is basically it's just word trickery. It makes you think that an argument is solid based on one piece of it being correct, while if you follow that logic straight through, it ends up being wholly incorrect. So it occurs when one argues that something must be true of the whole because it is true of some of the parts of the whole. And so there we have it. Okay, so let's practice. So what you're going to do is you're going to have your packet, and I'm going to present an example here, like I have right here. And then I will ask you to pause. I can't pause for you. So I will just be silent for about a couple of seconds, and then I'll give you the answer, and I'll kind of explain why a little bit, and then we'll move on. So while we're paused, what you should do is use your packet and just try to figure it out based on the information presented to you in the packet. You should try to figure out, or the previous lecture, which I will have uploaded by the time you get this. I will have the previous lecture uploaded, so if you didn't get the packet because you were absent or something, you'll have access still. But regardless, just use the packet to kind of go through it and see if you can figure out which one it is, and then I will give the answer. So in this case, during the semester, so these are all from now on, we're going to do like 5 or 6 of these. These are research methods that can be applied. Excuse me, these, what I'm reading, are research problems that the research methods that we discussed last class will be applied to. So during the semester, students in a class are lectured on particular courses, and an exam is administered at the end of the semester. In this case, the students are the subjects or dependent variables, while the lecturers are the independent variables treated on the subjects. So remember, treated just means that's the part of the study, or that's the part of the, I guess study in which the dependent variables are doing something. So just think back real quickly to my example about caffeine. Say giving people caffeine before a test. You'll have them test something, and then you'll give them the caffeine, and then they'll take a second test to see how the caffeine affected them. Well, the caffeine is the treatment. That is the thing that you do that isn't in and of itself is studied. It's the results of the treatments that are studied. So in this case, the students are the subject or dependent variables, while the lecturers are the independent variables treated on the subjects. Only one group of carefully selected students are considered in this research, and tests are only carried out at the end of the semester and not the beginning. So go ahead and hit pause, go through your packet, figure out which one this is. And we're back. Oh, dang it. That's right. These are out of order. So the answer, those first 2 slides are out of order. So the answer is experiments. So since only one group of carefully selected students are considered in this research, it technically makes it, in particular, a pre-experimental one-shot research design. So that is the correct full answer is pre-experimental. One shot is the most specific portion, research design. So I totally forgot this is out of order. This slide should have been first. So forgive me, because part of your assignment, I think it's prompt 1 and 2. I guess both, prompts 1 and 2 of part 2 ask you to discuss the small n or large n. And so remember, those just have to do with how big the study is. Large n just means bigger group. Small n generally means just like one person or one very small group of people. So maybe like 2 people kind of thing. So just when you come up with these, just think of the large n and small n as well. So you practice those. All right. So a researcher wants to know how many war deaths have been caused by air-to-ground rockets in every military conflict since 1990. So go ahead and hit pause, figure out which one it is. And we're back. This one is strictly quantitative. This is just a quantitative research study. So while you might think that it's longitudinal because it's timeline, in reality, the timeline is more irrelevant, as the question is about the total and presumably average over each year, thus comparing each one to one another. So in this case, it's not tracking war over the course of time. It's simply just looking at, it's just coming up with the time period. So that's that framework. When I talk about research all the time, you build the framework, you build that house with which you live, that house of research with which you live. And so in this case, it's just the only thing that you want is just the statistical average of how many deaths have been caused by air-to-ground rockets in military conflicts since 1990. So it is strictly mathematical. You're just looking for a mathematical answer here. And sometimes it's all prompts are, or excuse me, sometimes that's all research is you just want numbers. So in this case, purely quantitative because it was just a quantitative numerical answer that you were looking for. This is number 3. A researcher is interested in PTSD, and in particular at the events that cause the onset of such a disorder. Oh, and by the way, it's in war. I meant to add that too. So in war, a researcher is interested in PTSD in war, and in particular at the events that cause the onset of such a disorder. So go ahead and hit pause and look at the packet. And we're back. Observational. So obviously a researcher cannot cause a war to then study the mental fallibilities of the soldiers. And in particular, the key word here, by the way, is to cause the onset of the disorder. What are the events that cause the onset? Well, in war, events that cause the onset is the battle itself. It is the explosions. It is the witnessing of death and dismemberment. It is, it's the constant fear of death and injury and so forth. So you cannot recreate that. So when we talked about the difference between experimental and observational, experimental implies that you create an experiment to be able to create results that you can then research. Observational is those instances in which you cannot create an experiment that it's either too big or it's immoral or it's too expensive or what have you. But obviously, in this case, you can't start a war to then just to study PTSD. So you've got to go and find something where it exists. So a researcher who wants to understand PTSD right now more firsthand would honestly go to Ukraine. Would be how they would do it. All right, so the next one. Sarah has come up with a hypothesis. Oh, and by the way, I came up with these while literally watching Russia invade Ukraine, so that's where I got these ideas. So Sarah has come up with a hypothesis as to what's the relationship between a new drug called Superfeels, just given approval by the FDA, and anxiety are. What the relationship is between Superfeels and anxiety. Sarah's hypothesis is that Superfeels causes a decrease in anxiety. Sarah's independent variable is Superfeels. Her dependent variable is anxiety. Sarah will manipulate the dose of Superfeels to see if it causes a decrease in anxiety. Sarah collected a random sample of 600 individuals who have completed a baseline assessment and were found to have high levels of anxiety. She then divided them into 3 groups. The first group is a control group, which will receive a sugar pill each day as a placebo. The sugar pill looks like Superfeels so that the control group will think that they're being treated. This helps control for the placebo effect, which is when participants improve just because they believe that they are receiving treatment. So that next paragraph we can ignore. I needed to delete that. The second group is the low-dose experimental group. The participants in the second group receive 100 milligrams of Superfeels each day. The third group is the high-dose experimental group. The participants in that group receive 250 milligrams of Superfeels each day. Each of the 600 participants has an equal chance of being assigned to any of the 3 groups. So go ahead and check out your packet. Which one is this one? Go ahead and pause. And we're back. This is a true experiment. True experiment requires random assignment. So each of the 600 participants had an equal chance. That equates to randomness. They have control groups with no intervention. That is, in essence, what the placebo group is. They don't actually receive Superfeels. There is both a pre-test and a post-test. And in this case, she was selected 600 people with a random sample who have completed a baseline assessment. That's the pre. And then the post is studying studying Superfeels and whether or not it causes a decrease in anxiety. So there's your post test. So that would be, a true experiment. All right, next one. A researcher designs a study to understand the similarities or differences between identical twins who are brought up together versus identical twins who are not. The study observes several variables, but the constant is that all the participants have identical twins. In this case, the researcher wants to observe these participants from childhood to adulthood to understand how growing up in different environments influence traits, habits, and personality. Over many years, the researchers see both sets of twins as they experience life without intervention. Because the participants share the same genes, it is assumed that any differences are due to environmental factors, but only an attentive study can conclude those assumptions. So go ahead and check out your packet and hit pause. And we're back. And by the way, I've got a hyperlink. So when I upload this, there was an article that was just released of two married couples who are identical twins who had babies. And so, you know, two brothers were identical twins, two sisters were identical twins. They met, the brothers and sisters got married to one another, but they're not brothers and sisters to one another. Read the article, trust me. There's a very, very interesting quirk about the genetics of it all. Longitudinal. The researchers tracking twins over a very long period of time in real time, straight longitudinal. Kim, a principal in a primary school, wants to research what are parents' opinions of research designs, recent changes. I don't know what the heck I just read there. What are parents' opinions of recent changes to grading and assessment procedures? She sends out a survey to all parents to obtain a numerical rating of key aspects of the assessment, then follows up the interviews with a random sample of parents to explain for their ratings. Holy cow, what the heck did I write there? Then follows up the interview with a random sample of parents to explain their ratings. That's what I mean. So go ahead and check out the packet and hit pause. And we're back. That is mixed methods. This uses both qualitative, the poll, and quantitative, the survey, thus making it mixed method. Actually, those are backwards. The poll is quantitative, sorry. It uses both the poll is quantitative because that is data and the qualitative is the survey. So my apologies, those are backwards. But if you do remember last class when I was going through my polling of Grand Canyon students and ASU students, and then about politics, and then surveying some of them, that was also mixed method. So that is both qualitative and quantitative. So again, sorry, the poll is the quantitative, the survey is the qualitative, so I need to just fix that. And then last but not least, this one was actually a real study. This was done, and just wait till you see what happens. So curious of how many people would stop and listen to a musician with very little name recognition playing an instrument and musical pieces that are not commonplace in pop music today, a researcher hired violin virtuoso Joshua Bell on, oh my gosh, I have so many typos, you guys. Joshua Bell on January 12, 2007 to play in a Washington, D.C. subway station where about 1,000 morning commuters passed through without publicity, treating them to a free mini concert. Bell, who played for approximately 45 minutes, performing 6 classical pieces, 2 of which were by Bach, on his handcrafted 1713 Stradivarius violin, which means that it was made in 1713, for which Bell reportedly paid $3.5 million. What kind of study is this? Go ahead and hit pause. And we're back. This is experiment. Only 6 people stopped and stayed to listen for a while. About 20 gave him money, but continued to walk their normal pace. He collected $32. When he finished playing and silence took over, no one noticed it. No one applauded, nor was there any recognition. No one noticed that one of the best musicians in the world had played one of the most intricate pieces ever written with a violin worth $3.5 million. The experiment raised some interesting questions about how we not only value beauty, but extent that which the setting and presentation makes a difference. In fact, 3 days earlier, Bell had played to a full house at Boston Symphony Hall, where seats went for over $100. You can actually watch, again, this is a hyperlink. I added the link, you can watch it there. It's like a 3-minute video. And this is, my response is a little bit of this over. One person stopped and talked to him and recognized him. One person. So I want to skip those because I just wanted to get to this. The rest of these are okay. I'm confident like you'll be okay. I mean, here, well, yeah, if you want to look over those, you can, but I'm confident you'll be okay there. So just again, there's your final assignment. Just remember, part 2, these are also 150 to 200 words each per prompt. So you're looking at 450 to 600 words total. Please be sure to cite 3 to 5 relevant scholarly sources, and you'll be golden. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I love you all. Have a great weekend. Let me text me if you need anything. Otherwise, I will see you on Wednesday. Oh, yeah, please do not copy and paste the whole assignment to the Word document. Please just give me the answers. I beg of you. I don't need to copy and paste. That is so, I think it's so annoying. I don't know why whoever designed these lectures or these, assignments say to do that. That is so annoying. Please don't do that. Just write the answers. All right. I love you all. Have a great weekend. I will see you next week. Bye.